The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to your special Inner Circle session for today. I hope you're well. I hope you're good. Apologies, it was a bit late. There was a little bit of a problem with it connected to YouTube. I stream there as well, as I have to do. But appear to be all successful now. Let me just double check, if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, looks as though everything's up there. Very cool. So, for those of you watching on YouTube, welcome. For those of you not watching on YouTube and watching on GoToWebinar, very welcome. Let's get into it. So, what we're talking about today is really looking at what's called a trading agenda. This is something I've talked about in the past, but I've just sort of adapted a little bit just to bring it up to speed. And really, what we're about is just making sure that you're in the right state for the start of the day and on an ongoing basis. If you're in the right trading state, then you're more likely to be focused, to be engaged, and to make some great decisions. So that's the nature of today. Of course, we're going to have a look at live markets. Good, thank you. We're going to look at live markets as we go as well in a moment. I just want to put this important message, just remind you, this is for educational purposes only. As we look at live markets, please do your own due diligence on anything you see here. Make sure you follow trading plans. Make sure you manage risk on every trading action consistent with your own trading objectives and financial situation. And also, what I want to reinforce is that if you are the Go Markets is registered, is regulated by ASIC, and as such, you've got to do the right things if you're an Australian client as well. This is primarily for that cohort, although we recognise that many of you will be from overseas, different jurisdictions, where different rules may be in place, and make sure you are familiar with those. And of course, as we are, and make sure that you abide by the rules that you need to. So yeah, apologies for the slightly wrong disclaimer there. Good to see you here, Sonia. Thank you very much, Wayne. Thanks for the heads up on the AV. G'day, Roger. Hope you're well. Hope you're good. And g'day again, Michael. You're all very, very welcome. I know it's not quite a sexy topic as potentially I've got my wonderful daughter Charlie bringing me a cup of coffee. Oh, you're a superstar. Thank you very much. Hello, Charlie. People say. So, she's a superstar, bless her. Right, let's get into the story of the day. But what we're going to do, of course, is look at markets first, just to get a feel for where we're at. Let's just take a little bit of a refresh. If we just refresh what happened last night in the US. Is this the start of the pullback that we've been waiting for? Well, it's hardly awe-inspiring, is it? Which hit record highs. Yep. Worthwhile thanking her as well, absolutely, Wayne, because she'll keep me going for the next hour. So, I don't think it would quite be an hour. But remember, it's your sessions. If you want me to look at anything else, or you want me to talk about anything else, then please do tell me. So, if we look at the futures are going to reverse the majority of those losses. So one wonders whether we're going to hit all-time highs again. Part of the reason we're doing okay is because the Fed cut rates last week and projected 2 potential rate cuts for the rest of 2025. If we look at the expectations for the October meeting, it's now 95% chance almost. This is the 5% is in case it goes bonkers. 95% chance really of there being a rate cut in October, with an expectation that there'll probably be one in December as well, which is the next meeting after the October meeting. Possibly one also in January 2026. Can't believe we're nearly at 2026 already. What's interesting is, of course, the data that's coming out this week, which may alter the perception of that if it comes in too hot. If we look at Forex Factory, just as an example, you can see there is some data out today. Australian CPI this morning was a bit warm. That's just about killed any chance of a rate cut when the RBA meets next time. It was already pretty low. Japanese CPI keeping up high, same as last month. That probably leaves the door open for the BOJ to raise rates. And we've got crude oil inventories later and some housing data. Tomorrow we've got the Swiss interest rate expected to be 0%. Two big numbers coming out of the US. There's the fall on GDP, although that's the least impactful of the GDP numbers we've got already had, preliminary and advanced. So there's very rarely a move away from that, but obviously anything to do with the economic scene is going to be looked at pretty closely at the moment, because that was the reason the Fed cut rates. Wasn't because inflation is doing particularly well, because it's not. And we'll find out how not that is on Friday when we get the PCE data out. It is expected to tick downwards. If it ticks upwards, that's possibly not a good thing. So we will. It's a daylight savings time shift at the weekend. Is that just New Zealand? Ooh, good job we got that. Our DST include file ready to rock and roll. I didn't think it was yet. Anyway, you can let me know. I will do some digging on that. But I'm thinking of running a session on Friday evening, probably under a TIQ hat, when that PCE data is announced. It's going to be really important. So if you want to join me 10 minutes before it's released, just for a little bit of background, what we could expect, set up some charts to have a look at, and then see what the market response is live. I'm happy to run that session. Just let me know in the questions box whether that be of interest to you, and I can make sure that you know. Yeah, I didn't think it was right now, but yeah, thanks, man. I'm going to check it out though, just in case. And let's just see where the European markets are now. We can have a look at the futures. We'll do that now. And we'll have some charts. Defense for, oh, good grief. What's Trump doing now? Alibaba, biggest internet company in the US. Remind me to have a look at that chart. Oh, yes, of course, he's commenting on Ukraine. It's essentially saying the European markets, it's essentially saying the Eurozone should get essentially almost where you just pull back a little bit in terms of saying boots on the ground, but said that essentially the Ukrainians should take back all the territory that Russia have pinched, which is a completely changing narrative, really interesting. But it's come out and chosen to do that. Maybe it's a distraction from Epstein. Maybe it's a distraction from the nightmare UN speech he gave yesterday when his teleprompter failed, and his he tripped up the escalator. But you can see that European markets are a bit flat. That's just following last night's lead. They're probably slightly better than expected, but watch for what happens when the US market opens tonight. Oh, some of you have already seen that. That was from the last setting. This is new MT5 trader dashboard. Really excited about this and the hybrid trading stuff. Drop me an email. I'll put my Go Markets email in there if you don't know what I'm talking about because you weren't at the session and you like the look of that. I'll give you some more information. Just pop me a gomarkets.com. There's my email. Okay. Right, but let's have a look at the Nasdaq. So you can see the Nasdaq, just that little pullback. There's the record highs we hit 3 days ago, and we've half made back what we lost last night. Hardly a pullback, is it? It's just a blip. But you can see there. Today we just had a little retest of that gap. That's interesting because P6 would have done very well with that, with what's been developed. That's a perfect setup for a gap trade. Would have been worth about 23 or 25 points, 23 to 25 points, yeah. But since then, we're rocking and rolling to the upside. Difficult to make a call on this in terms of where might be a good entry point. I'm not sure there is one. I think it was probably here, where Wouldn't be surprised to see it pause into here until that data comes out of the US later. US dollar is doing okay, to be honest. Good day at the office for the USD. In terms of what that's done to gold, it's made it a bit bouncy. But again, yesterday, intraday record highs on gold. You can see there is the intraday spike, intraday all-time high close. Actually got up as high as, so just $9 short of that 3,800. I think it's heading to 4,000. Called it all the way up. I know many of you taking advantage of that. So interesting to see both the US dollar go up and the gold go up together. Possible buying into treasuries with the yield still being quite high at this stage on the 10-year. Here's copper mid-range. Oil is bouncing around within a range. It looks as though it's testing the upper part of that range. Let's put on the daily chart. Just going to move this up slightly. So that was the peak we hit last week. Possibly worth looking at if that breaches that around about 64.70. Move to the upside. And as for Bitcoin, well, Bitcoin I think is looking precarious. I did talk, for those of you at the next bar session last night, I did talk about 112 being sticky, and then Cameron sort of elaborated on that a little bit. To me, it looks as though it's still sticky. The price action today has had a few tests of yesterday's low, which was around that 111,600. The fact that it's holding on to this 12,500 level is interesting. There could be an opportunity here, possibly one of the better opportunities that we've seen outside of gold breaching yesterday's high. We've got to move over 113, let's say 114. Sorry, not 113,500. Then I think the upside on that is possibly a couple of thousand. So that's worth keeping an eye on. Gold's worth keeping an eye on. That's the major commodity groups done and major asset classes. Here's the US yen. Now we highlighted this. Here's the FX scanner. There's the US yen looking really positive. US Swiss is looking quite positive as well. Look on this with all the indicators. Just see it do that. We've got an EA actually bought into that already. Don't know how the EAs are doing today. Oh, that's me. Okay, so that's scooting on up. This is a key level here at 148.36. That's the level to watch. If you put it on a 4-hour chart, you'll see the upside on this is perhaps capped a little at this stage to around about 50 pips. Maybe even, I would be going for a 35 to 38 pip move on this. But there's a nice range there on the slightly longer time frame, so that's a very, very healthy looking chart. Euro USD, you can see here that the euro is under a little bit of pressure to the downside with that USD strength. And let's have a look at the Aussie US, which is actually positive. Positive for the day, but it's starting to pull down. But I think this is just going to get into messy territory here. GB pound Aussie looks interesting. Not quite yet, but I think if we do get a breach of that low from today, so we had a breach here at the key level at 204, but that looks like a bit of a fake out, really. We had a nice move down around about, yeah, we had about a 40 pip move to the downside. That's quite substantial. So we'll come back up here. This is the inflection point here. We breached this to the upside, that 204 level. Nice round number. We could get a move up to 204.50. I actually quite like this as a potential trade. Got a little bit of work to do yet, though. And the euro being under a bit of pressure versus the Aussie. I think the euro USD is a better trade than that. Let's just check out the Aussie yen. Is this our chart of the day? Yeah, I think it is. There we go. There's our US yen. See, the Aussie's strong. The yen's actually slightly better than it was an hour ago. First mover and groover, our first sort of point of interest would probably be about 23 to 20 to 30 pips to the upside. That's a fairly clean move, though. The higher probability trade is later on. It might be worth placing in a pending order if you had an exit on the EA above that 98.35. So yeah, Aussie yen or maybe even US yen. Actually, US yen is rocking. Yeah, he's breached that level as well. Yeah, US yen by distance on this candle as well. Nice potential trade setup. Well, I'm going to post this in Discord. US JPY. There we go. I think I should have a Go Markets Discord group as well, but they won't be yet. But we're working on it. There we go. Yeah, that's my chart of the day for this evening. Now, US stocks to watch tonight. Watching video, it did pull back last night, as in all tech stocks. Tesla did as well. Tesla's looking good for a move back up towards 478. Amazon extended hours trading is actually looking quite good too. But this is slightly different. It's looking for a bounce off this support level at around about 220, with a possible move up to the top of the range, which would be at 239. And the other one that I said we would have a look at is Alibaba. Pick a code Baba. That's extended hours trading. That's a boom. That's still going up. Oh, if we get towards market open and it breaches that gap up, that might be worth a look at. That's a 178. The other one worth keeping an eye on because it's in the same space is JD.com. Didn't have a very good day at the office yesterday. Just watch for a big bounce in this. You'd want it back over the 200 MA, but just got to keep an eye on tonight. Right, that should do for that stuff. Let's get into. Just check into the question, just make sure I haven't missed anything. You 5th of October, thank you, Wayne. I thought it was. So what's a daily agenda? Well, a daily agenda is a set of habits that you develop that are going to serve you well with your trading but for a few reasons, really. Assist you in getting to that optimum trading state. You don't want to be too laissez-faire. You don't want to be anxious, and you could do it on a bell curve. So something like this, perhaps. For those of you like me who've done a bit of research before, this will look familiar. Let's do this. So most responses sort of do this. We'll have this here, and we'll have this here. I can't see where my mouse is, so it's really difficult. So if you like, this first bit is just to don't care enough. It tends to be hobby traders or people who are just having a go. The end bit, the last of those 3 sections, is if you're very anxious, you've got massive stuff going on in terms of what's happening in your world, or you're just where your trades. I'm anxious what's happening to the market. It's that midpoint we want to be in, and so we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment in terms of practical things you can do to do that. Yeah, I know my drawing isn't the best. I just want to get it back on. There we go. It reduces the risk of minimalization bias. So what I mean by that, minimalization bias is it means that you make the judgment on entering a trade without taking everything into account. So for example, if we saw a trade now, then And we didn't take into account that there's some data out in 2 hours, 10 minutes. So that would we'd have to make a decision, am I going to be able to intervene prior to that data? Am I going to be able to trade a stop before that data is due? Do I want to exit before that data is out? Or do I not want to enter the trade at all? That's why you need to be aware of what's going on, invest the time. Of course, we've got, if you pull back here, that's why you invest the time to find out economic data. It's one of the reasons why we included it in the calendar here. You see those next ones coming up. The new home sales, EIA still, that's interesting. So that's tonight. Tomorrow will be a bit more special. But if it was the GDP, and the employment data, which is tomorrow, those would be high, obviously, and they would be more impactful. So tonight we might not care because there's nothing impactful. Tomorrow night we might care because there's those data points outward. That's part of what this does, is it helps you get that broad picture stuff. So what you should have really is, these are the things I need to check at the start of the day, and look, what I showed you at the start was probably about where you need to be. So you need to know what's happened, maybe what the futures are doing, a quick look at the major asset classes. That puts you can usually trim that down. I mean, obviously I was explaining it as I go, but guys could potentially, if you have all the right links to click, such as economic data, or you've got a monitor there, then you can, interesting extra panels there I could add. Then what you're doing is saying, yep, I'm in the market frame, I know what sort of market it's going to be, and I know what sort of things to look out for. So 3 steps exist. So the first step is, as I said, checking on your potential trading state. I just talked really about the advantages of making decisions when you're in the optimum state to do this. You care enough to do the right things, but you're not in a state which is, you're not in a hyper state which is potentially going to impact your decision making. If you're not in a good trading state, the reverse is that you're probably not in the best place to make decisions consistently and take constructive actions on this. And really, what's really important with this is, if there's other stuff going on in your world, because although what we're trying to do with all of these little tools and stuff is to make it quicker so you can find the information so you can act on it in a more timely way. It's still worthwhile saying, should I be actually trading today or not? The markets are going to be there tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Well, not on the next day because it's the weekend then, but following Monday. But what's really important is that you give yourself the permission not to trade. There are justifiable distractions, not least everything that's going on with those that you care about. If you're battling some other stuff, or if you're not in the best of health, then you're in the right place to give yourself the permission not to trade when you shouldn't be. So maybe make yourself, in terms of practical actions from this, maybe make yourself a list that says, look, in situation A, B, C, D, E, and this should be part of your overall trading plan. So you might have permission to trade, a permission to trade section, and then that's another good idea. The problem with doing this stuff is that you do this stuff and then you think, and then just as you're talking, you think, oh, there's another thing. There's another thing. What about if there was a dashboard there that was your checklist? And you tick the things, you have to physically check them, tick the things green, and then that's your go button, if you like. So would that be good? So imagine this. Give me some feedback. Imagine this isn't a trader dashboard, or possibly there is a first thing that comes up and says something like this. No, not something like this at all. This is an FX scanner, but something that popped up on your screen that was, because with MT5, of course, what you do is if you close these down, you open up again, all tabs are still there, so you don't ever have to take these off. Now, what I'll be getting people to do is change these to, so this will be called scanner. This will be, so this will be called dashboard. This will be called scanner. So in case you lose it, what it'll do is you can put the whole lot on straight away, and then you can create a template which uploads it in Harvey. So if you lose it, well, imagine this. Imagine that there was a data checklist or a trading state checklist that was up here that just asked questions. Have I done my overall market check? Have I checked what economic data is coming out today? Have I am I in the right state to be making trading decisions today? So come up with a 10-point checklist that you have to go green, 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 green. And you could even make it so it blocks you out from having a look at the rest of your MT5 if you hadn't ticked it green. But just as something there. Yep. Yeah, I agree, Wayne. Write that down as well. Okay, you can write me that, what you've just said, about making sure you've got all the components of knowing a particular strategy. Oh, yes. With the strategy one, that's a good add. Oh, no. Okay, just write that down. Remember, with a strategy, there could be you could click on the, you know how there was, indulge me, guys, because this is just wonderful. I just love this. So if we looked at the strategy scan, this is the strategy scanner. So essentially, it's got 4 strategies with all the setups on those, and it looks at all 27 major and minors. And you look at 5 green, 5 red, but the individual strategies are here. So what you could do is you could do a click. So the idea with this is you click on that and it opens the chart up. What you could also do is if you wanted to refresh the strategies, click on the fractal breakout and it pops a little pop-up box there. Woohoo! We like that. That's great. It's just very good. But also with the other, with is the agenda checklist. Pretty good is that? Okay, so one of the ways that you can help you get into your trader state, but also keep you on the straight and narrow, is realign with those things that are important. So really, you should have written down, and I used to talk about this quite a lot because people don't do it. Is you should have some set trading objectives. What's your purpose for trading? Should have that written down, and you should have a code of conduct, which is really a set of standard statements that says this is how you behave in the market. So you're always going to place a stop. You're always going to trail. You're always going to journal your trades. You're always going to. You're never going to enter a position without making sure that all the criteria are ticked. Whatever it is for you, I'll do a session on code of conduct at some stage, or maybe a video. Video on code of conduct for a long time. I think that's there. For this week, we go markets. Code of conduct. So trading code of conduct is good. So, but obviously your trading plan, if you are seeing if you've got within your trading plan, you should have a separate page for each strategy. So if you're trading a Bollinger Band strategy, for example, an out and in, then you should be just aligning with that strategy. Oh, that looks as though there's a couple set up. Let me just review my checklist. Let's just make sure that I'm going to trade this right. So just a quick glance is just enough, not only to renew and review in terms of making sure you make that decision, but also just, again, it's one of those things that just put yourself is, I'm in the trading zone. What this also helps allay a little bit is that heat of the market, getting sucked in at the heat of the market when you're looking at your capital moving up and down, up and down, up and down, going red, going blue, going blue, going red, going blue. All that sort of stuff. So the more you can get in, if you like, into the right place psychologically, as well as physically and informationally, having got the information you need to make decisions, you also need to put yourself in the place where you are really tuned into what your job is today, what your responsibilities to you and to your trading capital are for that trading day. And so again, part of this, and I sort of emphasized this before, but just in a little more detail, is make a judgment on what to expect. Now, the market will do what the market does, but if you're forewarned, you know that at the start of the European session, at the start of the US session, things are going to get a little more exciting. Volatility is going to increase. There's going to be increasing volume. You know that when new data is released, that the market's going to respond. Just for two simple examples, you know that Trump usually makes his posts either fairly early in the day, the US, so that's sort of 9 to 10 slot, or late at night when he can't sleep and it gets busy. His latest madness, absolute madness. Okay, being from a healthcare background, there's so many things that enrage me about what's happening. But this stuff about Tylenol and autism, when with my youngest kid being diagnosed as being autistic, I just find it completely offensive that you might suggest that paracetamol and Tylenol might have a link. It's irresponsible. It's stupid. It's not scientific. I don't know what his purpose for doing that is, apart from that nutter Kennedy that's leader of the health department there. With a research background and with a healthcare background, I was absolutely enraged when I saw that. Complete madness. Complete madness. And all it does is it sows doubt in a situation which is far, far worse and makes things far, far worse. The vaccine stuff I find it absolutely abhorrent. It is costing lives. Now, this is not to say that additional research doesn't need to be done. It's absolutely correct to raise questions. Sorry to go on a little bit of a rant here, but it's really important. But the reality is, and where this came from, is that there's likely to be more fallout from that. You saw the company that makes Tylenol drop through the floor and then recover some yesterday, when everybody on the planet said you're a nutter for even suggesting that's the case on the evidence that you've got right now. And I don't give a monkeys about anybody's political tendencies. That is just wrong on so many levels. Oh, anyway, so if there's anybody who asks you, go to the ones that know, go to the researchers, go to the medical researchers, go to those who know. Don't listen to the whisperings of a madman who was suggesting during COVID to swallow bleach. Anyway, rant it over. But you'll know that if there's something coming up that Trump's going to be part of, then it's worthwhile being aware of that. And one of the things I am looking at doing is just seeing if there's any merit in monitoring Truth Social posts and sending an alarm that suggests that if there's a market move or sends a notification, if you like, within an EA, but if there's a market response to this, probably on one of the major indices, then we can trade it. So let's take his witterings, his nonsense, and let's make something of them. But be aware of what's going on. CNBC is just a great place. I don't give a monkeys again of its political bent. Just have a look and see what the headlines are. Refresh it every 4 hours because interesting. That's very important. That's probably one of the reasons why gold is doing okay today. But if you see something like this, Trump's making comments on Ukraine, that's probably the right now thing. There may be more commentary on and more Trump posts. That was pretty brutal in terms of what he said to Putin. It's possibly a little overdue. Putin's been taking the mick out of anything that's been happening. I don't know about OpenAI Stargate. What's OpenAI Stargate? Let's have a look at that. Why is it bad timing? What is it? AI uses an awful lot of power. This is the issue. I mean, there's things like this today. That was last week. No, it was today. So a lot of these sites do a things to watch today or things to watch this week. I do a daily update, sorry, a week ahead video, which is on YouTube. All of that stuff, it's 5 minutes, and it tells you what the 5 key things markets are when we look at this week. So just making sure you know what's going on and what to expect, either from a technical or a fundamental point of view, or from a this could potentially change sentiment in a heartbeat. You've got to make a judgment with every trade in terms of what you think may happen. But what you're doing is with this, you're making a judgment on things like how many trades should I have open? Or what exposure should I have? Should I be careful about exposure in certain sectors or certain assets? Do I adjust my standard risk? If it's a low risk day, maybe I move up from 1% of my account to a 1.5%. If it's or even 2%, or if it's a high probability trade from a setup, do I do that? Because there's no data in the way. There's low risk day overall. There's a really nice clear pattern on this. The whole market's in a particular, all related assets are in a particular trend direction. And again, you can create a set of rules around that. One of the things that I talked about in the last session was talking about the dashboard specifically, was potentially having a volatility meter. It wouldn't just be based on the VIX, but it would obviously be a component part of that. And I'm unsure as to whether that to make an overall market volatility or maybe a sector volatility or maybe even an asset volatility, so like a gold VIX or an all VIX or even a BHP VIX. So there's various things we can do with that. It might be you click on the one you want. Anyway, so again, for speed of information. Um, so ultimately, you've got things like having that awareness of what markets are and what markets might be over the next few days, as well as the day that's in it. If you're entering CFD, share CFD positions, a PCE data out on Friday night is a biggie. That may be saying, right, I'm okay opening a trade for today and tomorrow, but actually before, if it is a US CFD, you might take some of it off the table if it's done okay by last thing or first thing in Australia's case, first thing in the morning, very first thing in the morning at this time. Or you would have an exit EA that would do it for that, of course. So you've got to make judgments, and the more informed you are, the better judgments you can make. But it's as much about being aware of what can change things as being aware of what is happening now. Think of it a bit like sort of market forensics. So if you take a crime scene, then what those investigating crime would do would be to study all of the things around that. So it's not necessarily objective, but what it with each individual part that gives you the full story. But once you put these parts together, you can create a story for your market day. It's part of your daily agenda. So it's those three things. It's having that checklist. Have I done everything like that? Have I done everything I should before I click the button? It's, am I in the right state to trade? And what is going on in markets which may alter my trading norm or alter my trading behavior to some degree? That's really what it's about. Uh, and having those three things in place, I would say, are probably pretty critical. So, in terms of making this work for you, let me just do something. I don't know. I'm sure I wrote an article for Go Markets and Eon ago on trading code of conduct. I should maybe get back to doing some of this back to basic stuff that's actually really quite important. Nope, maybe I should do one. That was one by me, but it's not. What did I say on copper? It was done in February. What did I suggest? Of course, this was thrown into. So, yeah, not a bad call. It did really well early on, of course, and then, of course, Trump came along with his 50% tariff on corporate imports and screwed it all up. Yeah, sure. I'll pop that link in. I'll pop that link in the chat. There we go. I'll also pop it in. Just give me a second. I'll pop it for you YouTube guys, in the stream there as well, so you can take advantage of that. But have a look around. I write 2 or 3 articles every week. So if you just search by Mike Smith, just let me do this. There you go. I've posted it into the latest series. Okay, let's search by Mike. Actually, let's just. What I've been doing is I've been doing a series on setups. So if that's of interest to you, I might make some PDFs on this. So you can see there, I've done one on break and retest. That was the one that's just been published. Inside bar, Bollinger Band reversal, outside bar. Inside bar setups, there we go. So all it is this, and I'm doing a little, these took ages to do, doing a little diagram like that. And then doing a little on the chart, and then the bullish version, there and there. And there you go. Copying of that too. So I'm doing a series of those, but what I'm going to do is I might even produce a series of downloads just with that information on, so people can just download it. If you'd like that, I can work on it. Excuse me, just have a drink. Okay. Just checking out questions. Okay, so what's happening over the next few days? Can you clarify, Mike? So there will be a live market update streaming on YouTube. So if you've not had a look at those, they're on Monday and Thursday, usually at around about middle of the day, 12:30 Melbourne time. 10:30 if you're like me in Perth. What we do is we just do what we did at the start of this session, really. We have a look at what's happening now, pick a couple of charts of the day. Obviously, the ASX is open, so I might have a look at that as well. So what to do is if you go on to YouTube on a computer or phone, maybe at about 12:15 tomorrow, you should see it there, and then just it'll kick off at 12. It'll say upcoming, and if you click on notifications, it'll send you a little message when it starts as well. And if you subscribe to that, then it'll just keep on sending you notifications every time there's a session on YouTube. That's what's coming up there. From an EA point of view, there's a session tomorrow, 2 sessions tomorrow. The first one is the kickoff of the new P6 EA program, which is going to be exciting. We will have some great people coming along to that. It's already as part of that community. Many returners who have done it before, so it's going to be a really nice mix of people who are newish, but mostly people who've done at least one program. Really looking forward to that. It's going to be a really good group. Then we've got EA Advanced, which is at 8 o'clock tomorrow. So the first one's at 7 or 7:10. EA Advanced is at 8 o'clock, and then I'll run a PCE on that. If you're not part of the TIQ gang, I'll put my email address into the chat there. I'll just also pop it into YouTube. If you drop me a line saying I want to be part of PCE, which is on Friday at 10:30 p.m. Obviously earlier if you're in your markets, then I'll make sure you get the link and you can pop along to that. It's always a heap of fun, and that's a really big data point. It's just .com, isn't it? It's not .com here. Yeah, okay. It's for you guys on YouTube. It's in there, so have a look. Wow, that's really, really cool. Okay, so that should cover it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for everything, all your comments, all your questions, and for just being here. It's always a pleasure and a privilege to serve. As I said, not as sexy as looking at a new whiz-bang indicator or trading strategy. In terms of importance, it's probably higher than the next new shiny thing. So go have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. The weekend is not that far away now, so you've done more than half of the week. Trade safe. Just watch for Friday. Could be an interesting time. And yeah, I'll love and leave you. We'll see you soon. Somewhere, sometime, somehow. Take care of yourselves. Hey, bye for now.